Now at 10, Carthage residents tonight voiced their frustrations on the city council's move to dissolve a board.
Plus, we're tracking thunderstorms rolling in late tonight. I'm going to have those details.
Also, a Pineville, Missouri woman gets an additional charge after the death of a pregnant Arkansas woman. And
the family of Dakota Patton is speaking out against the Neosho district attorney in charge of prosecuting his murder. I'm Anthony Saviello with the story.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The potential for severe weather tonight inches closer. It includes possibly some very high winds. This is KOAM News at 10. I'm Dow Quick. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Doug Heddy.
Yeah, we are tracking the potential for severe weather as we are watching a complex out to our west, which I really think is going to take a dive into northeastern Oklahoma. So I think it's mainly northeastern Oklahoma that's going to have the potential for severe weather. And probably once you get north of I-44, just some stronger storms. But we're going to continue to watch as this complex gets closer. Also, we got the heat advisories in effect starting tomorrow afternoon all the way into Friday evening across the region. So that is going to be another big story that we got to keep our eyes on. Nothing going on right now, but you can see this very intense cell riding right along the Kansas-Oklahoma state line. But again, I think this is going to, at least the strongest cluster, kind of take a turn toward Bartlesville into northeastern Oklahoma a little bit later on tonight. So we're going to be watching that. So I really think Kansas in Missouri, you're going to have the lower potential for severe weather. Our western counties will have a little bit higher potential. But we're going to break it all down for you here in just a bit.
See you soon. The Carthage City Council tonight voted to increase electric rates by an average of $18 per month. But it was apparently a different utility issue that drew more than 250 people to tonight's council meeting. The council tonight decided to stick with a previous decision to remove the appointed members of the Carthage Water and Electric Board. The council had originally made that decision earlier this month after saying board members were not fulfilling their duties. When the crowd was asked how many people wanted the board to stay, an overwhelming majority raised their hands. A lot of citizens attending tonight's meeting were vocal in their support for the board. Still, the council voted 6-4 to stand by their previous decision.
I'm sure there are still people that are unhappy, and that's not a good thing. But we will continue to try to work through this and return to the being able to work together well, and I feel like we will do that.
A number of citizens left the meeting immediately after the vote. Council had previously said it would appoint new board members as soon as possible. The family of a Southeast Kansas murder victim is speaking out about the proceedings in the case and their concerns about the prosecutor, Linus Thurston. KOAM's Anthony Saviello has that story.
On May 8th, investigators arrested Clint and Kimberly Nybarger in the case of the murder of Dakota Patton. The case is now working its way through the court system. However, Patton's family says the man in charge of prosecuting the suspects has a conflict of interest.
Well, he doesn't need to be prosecuting this case. He was in touch with Clint the night that Clint murdered my son.
Dakota went missing in April, and his body was later found in early May in the fields near 20th and Xavier Road here in Neosho County. According to an affidavit filed in the Allen County Court, Thurston was in contact with Finis Garduno, the man who reportedly turned in accused killer Clint Nybarger. Thurston had not only represented Garduno at one point, but Nybarger as well. Patton's mother and the affidavit call into question Thurston's ability to prosecute this case fairly.
Yeah, Linus has represented Clint for sure multiple times. In the affidavit it says he represented him on a DUI, fleeing and eluding, open container. Clint's paid Linus money before, and when they arrested Clint, Linus's contact number was in Clint's phone.
A judge has reviewed the affidavit regarding Thurston acting as prosecutor. The court gave Thurston 14 days from the unsealing of the affidavit to respond. Reporting in Neosho County, Anthony Saviello, KOAM News.
We reached out to Thurston's office for comment, but we have not yet received a response. A Pineville, Missouri woman who was previously indicted for the kidnapping and the murder of a pregnant Arkansas woman now faces an additional charge of killing the victim's unborn child. In November, 43-year-old Amber Waterman was accused of taking Ashley Bush from Maysville, Arkansas to Pineville because Waterman wanted to claim Bush's unborn child as her own. The original indictment alleges the kidnapping resulted in Bush's death. Today's superseding indictment also alleges in a new count that Amber Waterman caused the death of a child in utero. Authorities discovered the burned remains of the mother on Waterman's property. The baby was found with Amber Waterman and her husband, Jamie Waterman. The baby was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Both Watermans remain in custody tonight. The indictment alleges that Jamie Waterman tried to help his wife hide the crime and elude authorities. One of two men accused in the death of a Dallas County, Missouri woman entered a guilty plea today. Timothy Norton pleaded guilty to first-degree murder for the 2021 murder of Cassidy Rainwater. The judge has now sentenced him to life in prison without parole. A judge earlier this year gave Norton's co-defendant, James Phelps, the same sentence after he entered an Alford plea to similar charges. Cassidy Rainwater was reported missing in 2021. FBI investigators said they received photos from an anonymous source showing Rainwater in a cage. Investigators later found photos of Rainwater on Phelps's phone and eventually discovered Rainwater's skeletal remains. 3 family members of NASCAR driver Jimmy Johnson are dead in Oklahoma in what police say could be murder-suicide. Muskogee police said 68-year-old Terry Janway is suspected of shooting and killing her husband, 69-year-old Jack Janway, and their 11-year-old grandson Dalton. The couple's daughter, Chandra Janway, is married to Jimmy Johnson. Police say Terry called 911 and reported a disturbance and someone with a gun. When officers arrived, they saw a person lying inside the front door. Then they heard gunshots from inside the home. They searched the home and found 2 more people dead inside. Police said they are investigating this as a murder-suicide. Coming up, the Oklahoma Senate votes on Governor Stitt's veto of a bill dealing with tribal compacts. Plus, a new trail could be coming for outdoor lovers to enjoy in Joplin. We'll have details. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt's veto of a bill dealing with tribal compacts stands for now. This is not a new agreement between the governor and the tribes. Reporter Cameron Joyner breaks down what the vote in the Senate means for this ongoing battle.
We fell 1 vote shy.
The push to override Senate Bill 26X fails.
So we got 31 votes out of a chamber of 48.
Overriding the veto would extend the tribal compacts dealing with shared revenue on tobacco taxes by 1 year. The governor thinks more negotiation is needed, saying in a statement that he believes today's outcome underscores the state's commitment to negotiating compacts in good faith that are beneficial to all parties involved.
But this is just one chapter in a long battle that has lawmakers and the governor going around in circles. So, what has Governor Kevin Stitt digging his heels in? He says it's the McGirt decision.
And they're pushing for this compact that basically takes the definition of Indian country, and after the McGirt decision, it has different consequences. It potentially could mean 42% of our state. That's why they want that compact signed.
However, Senate Pro Tem Greg Treat says that this isn't the case for the compacts that are up for extension.
These compacts do not extend any definition of tribal lands.
But Governor Kevin Stitt says that the renegotiated compact he proposed is fair.
And if it's really about a 1-year extension and a 50-50 term, they should sign the one that we've offered the tribes.
But Pro Tem Treat says this isn't over yet.
There were 9 people missing today, 4 of which we know have told us their yes vote.
And a revote is on the agenda following the extension of the special session.
We have the votes. We'll just have to find a day that is agreeable to everyone to come back up here and cast the vote.
For now, Governor Stitt's veto stands, and negotiations between the governor and the tribes are at a standstill. Today is Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Awareness Day. With the 4th of July right around the corner, veterans who suffer from PTSD start getting anxious for the holiday. Many of them do. That happens because as the nation celebrates its independence with fireworks, some veterans are triggered by the sights, smells, and sounds.
The noise can bring back things, the explosions, the lighting of the candle, what blows up in the air, just stuff that reminds you of what you went through when you were there, and it just it's not something you really want to remember, or I don't.
For veterans coping with PTSD on the 4th of July, specialists recommend repeating simple reminders like, "This is not a combat zone," as those reminders can help reset the brain during a PTSD trigger. We're hosting a flag swap tomorrow from 11 until 2 at Arvest Bank in Joplin. That's at 2023 East 32nd Street. All you have to do is bring your old, tattered American flag to get a brand new American-made flag free of charge. The American Legion is assisting us in properly retiring those traded-in flags. This is the second flag swap we're hosting. You can find information about others still to come at KOAMnewsnow.com/flag. Joplin City officials today gave residents details on a plan to build a new trail along Tin Cup Creek. The Tin Cup Trail will be a pedestrian and bike trail connecting the St. John's Trail to the trails in McIndoe Park along Shoal Creek. It'll be more than a mile long. Construction will be broken into 2 phases, with phase 1 designed by city staff. Joplin-based engineering consultant Algeier Martin and Associates will help with phase 2, which could include multiple creek crossings.
Everything goes well. Hopefully we'll start construction sometime this fall, and we're hoping to have done sometime by next spring or summer. So ultimately by sometime middle of the year next year, we'll hopefully have everything open and it'll be ready for use.
Grand Falls Trail is the next project to be finished to expand trail connections even more. Joplin Car Dealership today donated the gift of warmth. Frank Fletcher Subaru donated 70 blankets to the Freeman Cornell Bashore Cancer Institute for patients. The fluids used for chemotherapy are cold and can leave the body weak and unable to produce enough heat on its own. Officials say these blankets go a long way to making cancer treatment a little less uncomfortable.
Because they get cold during chemo, and I had a good friend who had treatment here a couple of years ago, and she sent a photo of herself on Facebook to me saying, with a Subaru blanket on her legs, saying thank you. So that made it very special.
The Cancer Institute is at Freeman Hospital West. A little later, the Pitt State softball team welcomes new members to the Gorilla family.
Plus, we're tracking some thunderstorms trying to get into the area. I'm going to have those details coming up. Well, it definitely turned out to be another warm one for us today. Once we broke out of the clouds by mid-afternoon, we warmed into the mid to upper 80s across the region. We're pretty quiet right now looking outside. 7th and Rangeline sitting at 74. Dew point's been climbing, so we're sitting at 63, which makes it feel a little sticky out there. All right, we're still tracking some thunderstorms out to the west, so we do still have a severe threat, especially after midnight. The greatest severe threat is going to stay in northeastern Oklahoma. The farther north you go and east, the atmosphere is quite a bit more stable, so really not conducive for much in the way of severe weather. But still timing, kind of 11 p.m. to about 3 a.m. Our main threat is going to be wind. I'm going to keep tornado, hail, and rain threat, at least on the lower side. We're pretty quiet as of right now. We don't really have that much going on, and we're not going to see much, at least over the next couple hours. But we're tracking this complex, very small complex, moving due east right along the state line of Kansas and Oklahoma. It's a lot of questions of if it's going to dive into northeastern Oklahoma, if it's going to die out completely, but it is producing some pretty good winds, especially ahead of this line. We've been getting a lot of winds kind of in that 60 upwards to 70, 75 mile per hour range. But these are going to stay intense all the way through Ponca City, south of Wichita. Then it's a question of what happens once you get out into our western counties. So it's just something we're going to have to monitor for the next few hours. It won't get into our western counties for at least 2 more hours, and it looks like the heaviest rain will stay in our southern counties. So we're going to track this as it gets in. Here's midnight, so this is going to be late. I do think it's going to weaken as it pushes in, but we may get a couple severe thunderstorm warnings due to wind gusts of 60, but that's really just about it. And then I think it really just kind of falls apart. You can see this kind of wind line out ahead of it, or an outflow boundary. And the rain really not too heavy behind it, but of course something we want to watch as we go through the night. It'll be gone during the morning hours. So rainfall amounts, because it just doesn't have a lot of moisture, I don't think it's going to be very much, maybe upwards to a quarter or a half an inch in some spots. Then we move to the heat advisory, which goes in effect by tomorrow afternoon due to a big dome of high pressure right across parts of Texas. This dome is going to press farther northeast, and that is going to give us quite a bit of heat over the next few days. Now, we're going to have clouds all morning, so this is going to keep our temperature down. We'll be in the upper 80s by the noon hour. As we break out, we should warm mid to upper 90s, pressing 100 once we get into our western counties. But I actually think it's Thursday. This is going to be the hotter day. We're going to have quite a bit of sunshine. Temperatures should shoot to about 104, 105 by the time we head into Thursday afternoon. Also, heat indices getting up there about 110 as we go through the next few days. All right, so alert days due to heat, 99 tomorrow, 104 Thursday, 102 Friday. Cooling down a bit, but some scattered thunderstorms on Saturday.
It's too bad that the rain chances and amounts are likely diminishing, because one thing we do need is rain.
It's rain. We don't need wind.
We don't. 60-mile-an-hour winds no one needs. That's going to possibly result in some tree damage. Good morning. Thanks, Doug. Joplin City officials are urging residents to check on their family members, neighbors, friends, and pets as the heat index rises to dangerous levels. Public areas in the city will be open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. as potential cooling centers. The Joplin Athletics Center, City Hall, Health Department, and Public Safety Center will open. However, guidelines have to be followed, such as staying within designated areas, respecting others' space. Officials say it's important to stay hydrated, dress appropriately, and minimize direct sun exposure during heat waves. And don't forget your pets. They want pet owners to ensure those pets have access to shade and cool water. John Dales joins us now. Busy night for baseball in the area.
Yeah, the Outlaws and Griffins were scheduled to meet up. Mother Nature had other plans, but the Cardinals and Royals both in action as well. And one of the best pitchers in recent history from Crowder College receives a special honor. I got those stories and more right after the break. 13 months ago, Jacob Mizorowski was wearing a Crowder Rough Rider uniform. Fast forward ahead to current day, and he's competing in the MLB All-Star Futures game in Seattle. Now, this comes after Major League Baseball announced the 50-player roster for the game last night, and it features 25 of the best prospects from the American and National Leagues. Now, Mizorowski is part of the Brewers organization after he got picked by them in the second round of last year's MLB draft. He's been with their High A affiliate and been lights out this season, starting 15 games with a sub-3 ERA and 66 strikeouts. Now, the game will be played next Saturday, July the 8th, and it features former major leaguers like Adrian Beltre, Jamie Moyer, and Felix Hernandez as the team's coaches. To college softball, the season might be over, but recruiting never sleeps, and Pitt State head coach Jenny Fuller giving full credence to that today by signing 3 transfers to the Gorillas. She hopes they'll be able to help the program continue its upward trajectory. The Gorillas took a big step forward in 2023, finishing with a winning record for the first time in 6 years, including an impressive 17-6 record at home. Now, all 3 of these incoming transfers come to Pitt State via fellow Division II schools. Elena Rushing, a .276 career hitter, was with Oklahoma Baptist for 2 seasons. Sydney Swede brings a ton of experience. She's a 5th-year graduate player coming in from Drury University and has played in 123 career games with the Panthers to go with a .312 batting average. And Courtney Story transfers to Pitt State from Southern Arkansas. You might remember that name. She also was at Crowder College before that and batted .426 with the Rough Riders, along with being a 2-time All-Region performer. Meanwhile, we're at the midway point of summer baseball here in the 4 states. Last night, both Mink League teams from the 4 states squared off against each other in Joplin. Now, the Nevada Griffins won that contest. Tonight, they plan to do it all over again. However, that game postponed because of weather, so tonight's game in Nevada will be played tomorrow. The two were already scheduled to play each other tomorrow, so for convenience sake, Outlaws and Griffins were just going to play a doubleheader. Each game will be 7 innings, and the first end of it gets started at 5 o'clock. Rounding things out with Major League Baseball, the Royals and Cardinals both in action tonight. And that trip to London must have done wonders for the Cards. They win 4-2 over the Astros tonight. That's 2 wins in a row for them. Jordan Montgomery, the starting pitcher, he's had an up and down season, but tonight was fantastic for the Cardinals. He picks up the win. He throws 6 2/3 innings of 1-run ball. Things look just as promising for the Royals, but they blow it at the end. They give up 2 runs in the top of the 9th to Cleveland. Blown save from Scott Barlow, and all 3 runs in tonight's games were scored in the last 2 innings. Kansas City looked like it would escape with a win after scoring in the bottom of the 8th, but they do allow those 2 runs in the 9th. Well, that's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
Doug is still keeping an eye on the potential for severe weather tonight, but I guess the course of that storm, projected course, is changing a bit.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to go a little bit farther in our southern counties later on tonight. Still, the main threat is going to be gusty winds, but something we want to watch over the next few hours. And then the heat we don't really want, but alert days the next few days, right around triple digit.
Final sports note.
Outlaws have the night off tonight because of that postponement, but a busy day tomorrow. Doubleheader on top of youth camp at Joe Becker Stadium in the morning.
Wow. Hey, thanks for joining us. Please do be careful out there. Don't forget the morning show starts at 5 a.m. and let's make it a great